segment 3. We are $750,000 into the show. All right. Everybody asks me, what do you do with all that money? Well, I'm married. So what do you think? Gee whiz, man, why would you even ask me such a question? Anyway, segment 3, we are into our segment 2 of Nadia from Nadia Identity Files from Los Angeles, Hollywood, our Hollywood studio, every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. If you want to get, like, deep into, like, what makes you click, what's your identity, what's your multiple identities, you got to watch that show, man, because there are definitely some identities on that show. Nadia, what's your favorite show? What was your favorite show? I could tell you my favorite show.
What was my favorite show?
Yeah, what's the one that comes to mind right away and I say, hey, what was your favorite episode of the Nadia Identity Files?
Oh, of my show?
Yeah.
Okay, I was about to, like, throw out some other shows that I watched. Gosh, it's, like, really hard to say because I learned something from all of my guests. So I don't really have a favorite. I mean, I guess in recent times, definitely I really enjoyed speaking with Jean Decay on gender identity and drag performance for sure.
Right.
And I did my first Skype interview last week. Or not last week, the week before last, and that was really interesting.
That's fun.
Oh, God, yay.
Well, let me tell you, my favorite Nadia episode was with the character with lots of identities. He would dress like a girl, talk like a sailor, and it was like a total mix between I'm a woman, but man, I talk like the most foul-mouthed sailor down at the docks, and we were like arm wrestling and shooting pool and smoking cigarettes. You remember that one?
Yeah, that's my friend Jane Starr, and she is female identified. We were just exploring transgender identity on that show. Wow.
That sent off the censor buzzers, that one did. I loved it. I watched it 2 or 3 times. I'm like, man, that.
She is a character.
Whew.
I could not think of a better way of setting off my day, because that night I took a red eye to New York, and I was like, this is a perfect episode to, like, kind of set the day in motion.
Now, if you're kind of curious by whether you're watching us live or you're watching these segments out in the social media world, you can go to WCOBM.tv, click on shows, scroll down to Nadia Identity Files. All her segments are there. And like I said, they have some great content, even an old guy like me, it actually gets me to think a little bit. So that's very cool. Okay, our segment, I got a question for you about names. We are given names by our parents. We literally have nothing to do with what our name is. So my question is, yeah, I'm sure about that. Like, you told your parents what you wanted to get named when you were born?
Well, my legal name is not Nadia Rousseau.
Well, I saw something underneath your profile, but you know what I'm saying. It's your name. You're given a birth name by your parents. And most people don't have names like Danny Vegas or Nadia Rousseau. I mean, they have their own names, and that's their only name. And do you think a name has anything to do with an identity?
Absolutely, 100%. I was reading this book. Gosh, I do not remember the name off the top of my head. And this woman said that it's like a self-help book, and she was talking about how she was very unhappy with the direction of her life, and she kept having a name come in her head. And so she was like, I really want to move forward. I don't feel like the name that I was given at birth. I'm going to change my name. And so she changed her name, and she said it changed her swagger. It changed her approach to life, how she interacted with people. It just made her feel like a different person.
Well, the reason why I'm getting to that, because you're right. I will tell you, people who know me and my real name and my real life, they're like, gee whiz, it's nothing like your Danny Vegas character that you're always playing. Like, yeah, it's 2 different people. But I want to get to the point, like, because we in our society, our women are expected, or up to this point, that when they get married, they have to give up their name in so that they can carry the surname of their husband. Been going on for 1 billion years. And I've asked women this many times before. If, Nadia, you had a son who was carrying your name, And he came home and said, I'm getting married. I'm getting married to this beautiful girl, but Mom, sorry, I'm going to take her name and she's not going to take mine. So the connection between you two, as far as the name that you gave him at birth, when you pushed him out of your body, he's given it up for another name. How does that affect you?
I would say that's totally fine. I mean, I honestly have been thinking about legally changing my name because everywhere I go, people know me as Nadia. Like, only very few people know me under my legal name, which is Amy.
You look like an Amy.
Friends, family, obviously, like close friends I grew up with, my parents. They're not going to be like, hi, Nadia. They're going to be Amy, and they forever, even if I did legally change it, you know what I mean? And my mom did not take my dad's last name, and my mom is Jewish, so I grew up, you know, here and there practicing Judaism, and in Jewish culture, everything is carried on by your mother, so it's a little different as well.
So you and it's kind of interesting because some women really had a hard time contemplating that their sons giving up their birth name to take the surname of their wife, not the other way around. And some women really don't care. And I always say it always has to do with time and space. If we were doing this sitting on the bus 60 years ago, riding from one part of town to the other because there was no phones and there was no Skype, and we were talking about the same thing, there'd be probably a pretty good chance that my friend Nadia would say, oh, no, of course my son's not going to take the, it's a time and space.
Maybe not, because even if I was in another time, I probably would be just as progressive and non-traditional as I am today.
I would debate you on that at some point in time, because what progressive was 150 years ago wouldn't even exist today, or it doesn't. What?
Being progressive in the context of the time that I was in.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, but what's progressive now? Even the progressive, it depends on kind of where you were in space and time. Abraham Lincoln was considered a progressive compared to what we think of now. In his time and day, he was progressive. He was trying to do things that were just unheard of. So it just all depends on time and space. So I kind of wanted to get into the name thing because I do think, you're a strong female. I know you are. I could feel that. And I've never even been in your presence in real life. But you're a strong female. And we do have this culture where females, up to this point, and they have the choice, but for the most part, I'd be willing to bet they mostly still do, they give up their name and take on the name of their husbands. I tend to believe that is almost a sign of submissiveness in some ways. And I was just wanting to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, a lot of women do take their husbands' or wives' names because obviously women can marry other women today.
That's a newbie. Yep, they can.
But so it's like, honestly, I would not fault a woman for doing that, and I would not say that doesn't make her quote unquote strong. I mean, we live in such a binary society where it's like you do one thing that makes you this, or you do another thing and that makes you that. I mean, we're very nuanced and multifaceted beings, and if, for that woman, honoring a certain sense of tradition makes her feel empowered, more power to her.
Okay, well, that's very interesting because I would debate a little bit that I would say in our society, if a woman decided, you know what, I'm going to get married, but I'm not going to take the surname, and when our children are born, they're going to have my last name, I would consider that a pretty strong-minded woman.
I think what you're saying is that the woman would be taking, because if a couple gets married and the mother retains her maiden name like my mom did, I still took my dad's. I mean, obviously by virtue of being the child of two people, the child typically will take the father's name. So I think what you're implying is that a couple, if they got married, if the man or the woman, whatever, took the woman's last name, because that has been happening. More I have been seeing that. I have a friend who did that actually, and sometimes the names get hyphenated too.
Right.
I'm a big fan of that. I mean, I know if I got married, like my preference probably would be to have a hyphenated name, so the child is then has ownership of both names,
right,
rather than one or the other. So I think absolutely, yeah, sure, that's a quote unquote strong move to, buck up against societal standards, but all the same, it's like it's a little problematic to, constantly dub women as like strong, because then that means if women are not following suit in certain like X, Y, or Z protocols, that means that they are then seen as weak.
Well,
Which I don't think is the case, and I think that life and everything else is much more complicated than that.
well, Nadia, our 10 minutes is up. Our segment is up, so I'm going to say one thing. I'm certainly going to reach out to you. We'll get these distributed all over social media.
Cool.
I'm a fan, and I can't wait to continue the conversation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Totally, Danny. Thank you so much for having me on, and
Our-
for sure you'll have to come on my show sometime.
I would be honored. Okay, everybody, we'll be back with Alexis Brown right after this.